never knew what the words were, but we sang it anyway. It's so great to be with you tonight. Gosh, I got so fired up, and I know when I'm at this point in the program, I'm often the last speaker on the floor in the evening, and some people say, I see you doing speeches on C-SPAN. Well, both parties get 2 hours, and it's divided 1 hour and then 2 30 minutes. And my freshman term, we didn't take our time. And the Democrats, led by Debbie Wasserperson Schultz and some other folks, they took their time every night blasting us. And I'd go, we'd be seeing them on C-SPAN, I'd go, guys, you see what they're saying about us? They're hurting their own credibility, they're hurting themselves. And I'm telling you, watching them 2 hours a night, every night, blasting Republicans, blaming us for everything in the world, they moved opinion. You can't be quiet. You can't be like the establishment Republicans that think, it'll all work out. Oh, well, it's fine. The deep state's running things. We don't have to worry. We came perilously close to losing everything. I mean, very, very close. So, but a couple of points. For one thing, I think Ron mentioned the word crap. When the Democrats were in the majority, they had this bill they called cap and trade. And I always referred to it as crap and trade. And that went on for a couple of months. And the parliamentarian was very well-to-do, extremely well-educated, very soft-spoken. And one afternoon, he came over to me on the floor and said, could we talk for just a moment? And I said, sure. And he's very scholarly. And I did really well in English all the way through, minored in it, but I know it wouldn't sound like it here. But anyway, we sit down, and this intellectual says, we've been concerned that you may be violating the rules of decorum by using the word crap. And I said, really? Because there are a number of assistants, and if they have an issue, they vote. I said, did you guys vote on that? He said, well, we debated for a couple hours last night, and at the conclusion, the vote was evenly split whether or not it violated our rules of decorum. So I was asked to ask you, would you stop saying, that word? And I just had this vision of them sitting around debating that. You got nothing better to do. So I'm just trying to give you a word of warning. You may get one of those lectures like I got. And some people talk about, well, we vote no a lot in the House. Let me tell you, there was a small group of us, thank God, literally, that were a no on the first health care bill that was run out in 2017. And the president trusted these people that were working for him, and Paul Ryan and McConnell and their people. And it was a disaster. It was going to skyrocket premiums for a number of years into the future. Some projections had it as many as 8, 9, 10 years, but not to worry, in the 9th or 10th year, you might get a 6 to 10% discount. And a small group of us were going, people can't afford 2 more years of this kind of skyrocketing. And I'll never forget being in the cabinet room with the president, about 25 others, and being told, yeah, but this gives so much more power to Health and Human Services Department that we'll be able to completely destroy Obamacare. And I'm having this argument with the president sitting right there. Don't you understand that if you have the power to destroy it, the next Democrat will have the power to build it back even worse? That is no way to take it out. We need to vote to take it out, just like it was voted in. And I was told, you just don't understand how good a job we can do with more power in the state department. That's nuts. So anyway, we were no on that, but we came together and agreed on a medical bill, a health care bill that would have been good. And then there was history made in the Senate. The bill they had was so bad. We had senators calling us, including McConnell, and calling the Freedom Caucus and saying, look, we know our bill is bad. Our hope is to get it passed so it can go to conference and we can come out with a decent one. But we need your promise. The only chance we have of passing this health care bill in the Senate is if you guys promise you won't allow this to pass if it comes to the floor as it is. Oh yeah, we were easy assuring them of that. This will never pass in the House. We will make sure of that. So sometimes there's a time to say no, and sometimes it's good to say yes. And I'm looking forward, folks, to the Texas House saying yes to good Senate bills that Dan Patrick, Connie, and others are working on. Won't that be awesome for Texas? That would be fantastic. And you heard from our great Lieutenant Governor that we have got to be aggressive in all areas. Don't just assume because some group always votes Democrat that we can't make inroads. We've already made inroads in every single group except one. And of course I'm talking about dead people. They always vote Democrat. And you know, they always vote Democrat. I don't know, some of you may remember the days when it was at least as bad, if not worse. Back in the 90s, I heard David Brinkley one night and on with Tom Brokaw before they, Brokaw really showed his colors. But and he said, David, tell him that. There was a little lull. He said, tell him that story Johnson told y'all. And he said, well, you got to remember before Watergate, President would come down and just visit with the reporters. It was always off the record, and it was a midterm election. And President Johnson came down and he was sitting at one of the reporters' desks, had his boots up on the desk, had his hand inside his shirt, scratching his belly, drinking a beer. And he said, yeah, I remember my first congressional election. The night before the election, my campaign manager and I were out in the cemetery writing down names of people that would vote the next day. And we came to one tombstone that had moss and all kinds of crud on it, and you couldn't really read the name. And my campaign manager said, come on, Lyndon, let's go to the next one. And I grabbed him and I said, no, sir, this man has every bit as much right to vote as anybody else in this cemetery. You know, now that's being open-minded about voting. And I think there's some dead people out there that want to vote Republican, if the truth be known. So let's keep that in mind. And you've heard my dear friend Sean Hannity that's coming to the Dallas area Saturday. I don't know when exactly it is, but Sean texted me and said, hey, I'll be in Dallas area Saturday. I'm not sure. Anybody know when that is? Where it is? No. I don't know. Well, I'm supposed to find out. He's coming for Ted. And then the president's coming for Ted to the Houston area on Monday. But Sean has said it every show that this is the most important midterm election in our lifetime. And the reason it is because that last election was the most important election in our lifetime, and maybe in the last 120 years. I told my wife on election night 2016, I think Trump's got a really good chance. But if he doesn't win, and I was deadly serious, because I know things were going, and I didn't even know how badly corrupted the DOJ and the FBI were. Said, Kathy, you need to be ready. If Hillary wins, I'm pretty sure I'll be in jail within 4 years. I didn't even know how badly corrupted they were, and I wasn't kidding. Because, you know, it used to be that we had freedom of religion here in America, but I knew when the Democrats were pushing what they called hate crime legislation, and they were using the murder down in Jasper as the poster case. My goodness, we got something called the death penalty in Texas, and the two most culpable guys got the death penalty, as they should. Now, if it were up to me, I'd say I'm okay with the Texas law that says the victim's family can choose the manner of execution, you know, but that's not the law. But anyway, they were saying that's why we need hate crime laws. There's no death penalty with hate crime. By the way, the last man I sentenced to death as a judge was executed a few weeks ago, about 3 weeks ago. And if you knew and saw all that he had done to a woman, you would not have had a problem sentencing him, as I did not. So much for hating women. I hate men that would do things like that. But anyway, let me just tell you, for the first time since people from abroad came to North America, Christians have been getting persecuted. And Obama promised us he was going to fundamentally transform America. And folks, he did. He absolutely did. You look at David Axelrod's book, he explains that in 2008, they knew Rick Warren would ask the question, how do you feel about marriage? And they had polled it every which way, and if he said marriage can be same-sex, then he would have lost the election in 2008, so he had to lie and say, no, you know, I'm okay with same-sex relations, but marriage is between a man and a woman, like the Bible says. Well, he lied. And 8 years later, can't get elected president if you aren't open-minded about it. That's a fundamental transformation. But Christians are being persecuted. They were during the Obama administration. Did you ever think in your lifetime you would see nuns being persecuted by the federal government who took a vow of poverty to help unfortunate people, and the federal government goes after them for their religious beliefs? And by the way, I saw Gosnell. It's worth seeing. But that, we did not pass a really important pro-life bill. We passed Pain Capable out of the House. The Senate didn't take it up. That would, and I'm for it. You know, those that are pro-life, we're for anything that would reduce the killing of innocent little babies. But there is another bill called the Heartbeat Bill, and it's brilliant. And what do you do if you see somebody that appears unconscious, not moving? You run up and check for a pulse. If there's a pulse, if there's a heartbeat, you call an ambulance. If there's no pulse, then you call, you know, the funeral home. Well, the law is very simple. It says if a heartbeat's detected, the life must be protected. And the Pain Capable is a wonderful bill, but it's kind of vague. When does that point, when is that achieved that the child can feel pain? With a heartbeat, there's no question. You know when that is. So, but National Right to Life is not come out in support, and Paul Ryan and Kevin McCarthy said we don't schedule things for the floor on pro-life unless all the big groups are in favor. So we need to get to pushing that. But my time is brief. Let me mention though, you got an important race here. Kenny Marchant, and he doesn't vote as conservatively as me, but let me tell you, he's my friend, and we need him in the House. And if a Democrat wins that seat, then it multiplies the chances that Nancy Pelosi will have the gavel. We cannot afford that. And we also, from a personal standpoint, back when I just felt consumed, we needed a new speaker. And I was willing to put myself in all kinds of harm's way to go out there and try to get 29 votes so that Boehner couldn't win and we could send it to a second vote. There were a bunch of our congressmen from Texas that literally yelled at me. Kenny was not one of them. He was an encourager, and I appreciate that. We don't need to lose that seat to a Democrat. Well, look, John Adams said this Constitution was intended for a moral and religious people wholly inadequate for the government of any others. Folks, Christians have begun to be persecuted until President Trump took office, and that could reverse. No matter whether you're a Christian or not, you ought to want to have morality and religion like Christianity, not a religion that thinks their religion should have their religious leader as the head of our state. But you ought to want morality and religion, not being persecuted and prosecuted. And I'm telling you, the DOJ has not been called to account for what they did. And if we lose the majority, they won't. And we will not elect another Republican president. And this nation is done. And I had 3 guys from Australia sometimes back, and they were at my office right after somebody said, well, Louie, you know, we don't have to worry. If things go south, we can all go to Australia. And I told them, and I thought they'd laugh, and they said, if you guys lose your freedom here, China will take us over like that. You won't have any place to go. So here's the deal. We have got to turn people out. Yes, Tarrant County is incredibly important. I mean, you've seen what happened in Dallas and Houston and San Antonio. Of course, you knew about Austin. But we can't let this go as a blue, even trickle. We have got to save these seats, save this as a Republican bastion, or the state is in big trouble. And you know, it's like Dan Patrick said, if the state's in trouble, the nation's in trouble. So, can you sit idly by and wait and just see if Pelosi gets the gavel? No. Well, can you sit by and watch Tarrant County turn blue?
No.
If Tarrant County turns blue, they're going to have to take these kicking and screaming into jail.
Yeah, well, you and I will be sharing a cell. But think about it. Do you want Fort Worth to be another Chicago killing field?
No.
All right, so do you pledge here and now you'll do everything you can to use your time, your talent, whatever money you got to keep this a Republican county?
Yes.
Let's do it. Let's save America, starting right here in Tarrant County. Thank you.